Martin. I'm Vice President of NVIDIA's, one of NVIDIA's industries. We go to market very much focused on solutions for multiple industries. So I lead the retail and consumer packaged good industries. And what else do you want me to say? I worked at a lot of startups before I went to NVIDIA. As I'm sure you'll hear later, startups are a very key part of NVIDIA's growth strategy. And so that startup, I think, prepared me well to work at the pace and the speed that we work at NVIDIA. It's the biggest startup I've ever worked at.
It's what every startup aspires to become.
Yeah, and I was explaining to Warren that actually starting in Silicon Valley at SGI. So for those of you who are a little older, you might know that it was the hottest company in Silicon Valley, and most of the engineers at NVIDIA are former SGIs. So happy to be here.
Wonderful. First, on behalf of Plug and Play and my team, I wanted to welcome everybody to Plug and Play. In January, we will be 20 years old in this building. Just a quick show of hands, how many of you are here for the first time? My God, you're up for a treat with the AI Summit. But again, welcome everybody. I am Saeed Amidi, and I arrived to Sand Hill Road 1987. And I was going to Menlo College, who some people said it's a back door to Stanford, but I never found the door. So as Lisa and Jensen are immigrants here, I am also an immigrant from Iran. And we had a little revolution in 1979. Exactly. And as an incredibly spoiled 19-year-old, suddenly, like I had a house on Sand Hill Circle at the golf course and was living a very cool life. And I thought it's my house. Suddenly my mom shows up, my dad shows up, the rest of the family shows up, and they quite very much ruined my style. And my father, to his credit and God rest his soul, within 2 weeks he sat me down. At that time I had $2,000 pocket money a month. This is other than tuition and housing and other thing. And he told me, Saeed, you're welcome to live here. I will pay your tuition. But for your pocket money, you have to earn it. You have to start working. And then because he didn't speak English, he gave me an option to be his translator. And by the end of the summer, if I wasn't happier than my vacations in Europe, he would buy me a Mercedes. And I thought that was a good deal. Convertible Mercedes, that is. But nevertheless, I started my first company that summer. I still run it. It's called ALPS, American Liquid Packaging System. It's about $1 billion turnover, 4,000 people, about 10% EBITDA. And then for fun, I started investing in startups on University Avenue in Palo Alto. And quite frankly, when I made a little money, I bought the Lucky Building, which is 165 University Avenue. And my first tenant was Peter Thiel. And my brother negotiated with him to pay $200,000 rent in advance because he didn't have good financial statement. And we invested 100 of it in PayPal. And then we had a little company called Google move in there when there were 3 people, and they were with us for 2 years. And we had a chance to invest in Google through Ron Conway, Angel LLP. And I call myself an accidental investor, but then you will hear more what Plug and Play does and how we have helped about 50,000 entrepreneurs realize their dream here and around the world. But it's a great pleasure to be here with Azita and Warren, and we're going to have a great session.
Yeah, and you're going to hear this as a recurring theme. You heard it with Keith earlier, and with us in moments here. It is all about the ecosystem. We're all here together to push forward on amazing technology, push humanity forward, and some incredible companies here that have come out and been born and bred out of plug and play, and of course a number of companies, many companies that have been enabled by NVIDIA. And wanted to start with the here and now with NVIDIA. We know it is a chip company primarily, but it's so much more. So Azita, who is NVIDIA?
Yeah, when I started at NVIDIA 7 years ago, and I would reach out to CIOs and executives, they're like, oh yeah, my son uses your gaming chips. And I'm like, no, we're not a gaming company. We are an AI company. And this was 7 years ago. And today everybody goes, oh yeah, you're the GPU company. Actually, we're not. We're the accelerated computing company. And so we have the entire infrastructure that you need, that it is AI purpose built. So it's our GPUs, it's our data processing units, and it's all the networking and components that creates the fastest computers in the world for computing, for training and inference of AI. But actually our secret sauce is our software, our acceleration software. 70% of NVIDIA's employees and engineers, not employees, engineers, work on our acceleration software. And that's our secret sauce. And probably the best way I describe it is, if you're building on our GPUs as a startup, if you're training algorithms or if you're optimizing inference, you're going to get 20 times acceleration. When you use the right acceleration software, you're going to get 50, 70 times acceleration. And so that is a key part of our go-to-market, is helping the ecosystem, which are the startups, learn how to use our acceleration software, because it actually helps you save money. You're going to need less GPUs for higher performance. So in a nutshell, we're an accelerated computing company. So much more than a GPU company.
Wonderful. And passing the baton along to Saeed here, who is Plug and Play?
Wonderful. I always like to add a little real stories. We have an office in Stuttgart for about 10 years. Mercedes, Dr. Seche and Ola, at that time, Dr. Seche was the CEO, Ola was the CTO, came here and spent 4 hours with us. And then they kind of mentioned to me, Saeed, you have to come and open an office in Stuttgart. I said, I have never been to Stuttgart. They said, that's your fault. So 10 years later, we have done 148 projects with Mercedes, and about 48 of the technologies we took to Stuttgart is in the Mercedes car now. And similar to Azita, about 6-7 years ago, I was at CES at the Mercedes podium like this with Jensen and Ola, talking about the speed of change, speed of innovation. Specifically Mercedes says we are behind in autonomous and we are behind in electrification and connected car. And Ola is a Swedish guy, very decisive. He says we're not going to only catch up, we're going to get ahead. And I believe they have the first approved autonomous car level 4 in California. And the funny part is he delivered me a car February last year, right here with the gentleman from Mercedes Lab, which is in Sunnyvale. And it was a beautiful black Mercedes, white interior. And I had a great time. And then a week later, he came and picked it up. I was very surprised. I thought it was a gift. And then I said, no, I want to buy it. They said, no, Saeed, this model is not for sale yet, or is not, we just wanted to get your opinion. But why I say that story is Jensen went on stage and talked incredibly with confidence, and I thought it was a gaming chip software company this 6-7 years ago. But what impact ChatGPT and NVIDIA and our previous speaker AMD has done personally, because I've been in Silicon Valley 47 years, I think it's the tip of the iceberg. I really think it's the best time in my lifetime to be an entrepreneur, because you could build a solution cheaper than ever, faster than ever. And I will give you a few examples later on what I mean. But I think we will make an incredible positive impact in the world, including creating high-paying jobs.
Actually, Mercedes' autonomous driving is developed by NVIDIA. So we have a collaboration on that, but it's primarily, they make the best design cars and engineering engines, and we do the autonomous driving for them.
And speaking about collaboration and community, a few words about AI Fund. We're not a venture capital fund, although we do have a fund. We're a venture studio. And what we do is we collaborate with corporations across the globe to pull ideas, business opportunities out of the four walls of the organization and start up independent companies that are to the benefit of that organization, plus the thousands of other corporations that are around the world. So it's really focused on AI software for efficiency. So where can we get into like the legal department or the marketing department or manufacturing, supply chain? Where are there opportunities to create great new companies? And the ideas come out of these corporations. They're the first customer. They provide the data for training these models. So it's an interesting model in terms, and it's founded upon collaboration and cooperation with corporations that are in the United States, in Asia, in Europe, hopefully most of the other continents shortly as well. But the goal for AI Fund is to initiate around a dozen companies every year, or one per month. And this really speaks to the pace of innovation. With what has been going on with the revolution in coding and the fact that you can get all these agents to help or to lead coding for you, we're able to get prototypes out and iterated upon on a weekly basis. And it's really an amazing step function change in terms of what it takes to get something up and out the door and fuel some of these great innovations to get them out. So that's what we're doing at AI Fund. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the founder of AI Fund is Andrew Ng. Many of you are probably familiar with Andrew. He's a leader in AI education and is actually, and probably no surprise, also incredibly business savvy. So that's the genesis of AI Fund and what we're doing. Speaking of genesis, I did want to push the button on the Wayback Machine and go back to Azita here and talk a little bit about the pathway that NVIDIA took, because it did go from, well, I'll say it for a moment, gaming acceleration to in the whole decentralized finance and cryptocurrency space. It made a huge impact. Obviously in AI, it's making a big impact. NVIDIA is an overnight success that took 32 years. Almost every entrepreneur here wants to make it to that apex and is starting out where NVIDIA did, which is with nothing and an idea. Maybe you can say a little bit more about the history of NVIDIA and what it took to get where it is today.
Yeah. I know I can't say it as great as Jensen does, but you're absolutely right, Warren. I mean, NVIDIA, started as a graphic company to make games feel like real. And so 3D is at the core of how the company got started. And in fact, that's why a lot of Silicon Graphics people went over there. But I remember Jensen telling stories, right? Like there was a major gaming investor from Japan that put some money in the company, and we started, NVIDIA started developing a chip for that particular game, only to realize that it wasn't going to work. And so Jensen went back and just said the truth. We screwed up. And so there's been a few times in the history of the company where I think another time where there was only money left for 6 months. And they didn't have time to, usually you create like a version, you test it, and then you fine tune it, and there was no time for that. They were going to run out of money. And so they actually used an emulation software to simulate the performance of the chip. And it was a big bang. I mean, they were going to shut down, and it worked. So I would say throughout the journey of NVIDIA, the one thing that's always the culture of the company is, and the thing that Jensen says to every one of us is, if we were going to run out of money in 6 months, what would you focus on? NVIDIA by design is an understaffed company. We are extremely lean, which is great. We don't have a lot of bureaucracy. We don't have a lot of fat. And so, from the top to throughout management, when people come and say, I'm overworked, I need more people, the answer is, what are the 3 most needle-moving things that you can work on? And that is what you're going to focus on. And that's been at the core of our culture. So, of course, we got into gaming, very successful. And then, of course, Keith was talking about Canada and some of the incredible researchers in Canada. So there were several professors at University of Toronto that discovered AlexNet. And that was actually using the gaming chips to parallelize compute. And it all started with computer vision. And that's when Jensen, and the one thing was that Jensen and NVIDIA has always been also connected to academia. A lot of connections with Stanford and University of Toronto and many of the top universities. And so that's when it was like, oh, and we, got to get started now with AI. And that was 2012. And what most people don't know is NVIDIA has been working with OpenAI since 2016. Actually, Jensen personally delivered the first supercomputer that we had, DGX, to OpenAI's office in Palo Alto. And we've been working with them. Keith was not correct. We knew what OpenAI was developing. It's just not telling the world about it. But the overnight success and 100 million users in the first 2 months, nobody expected that for sure. So it's been an amazing journey. I mean, I've been there 7 years, and I already knew 7, 8 years ago that AI was going to take off, and NVIDIA was the one that was going to lead it. And so it's been an amazing journey, and here we are.
Awesome. And as Saeed, you mentioned that you're the accidental investor. But obviously accidentally correct in terms of the investments that you made and finding the lucky building, which is understating, selecting companies to work with, investments to make. But tell us a little bit more about Plug and Play and the offerings that you have for entrepreneurs and how you grew that value over time.
Wonderful. And I also would love toward the end to tell you what I'm excited about, which is this AI Center of Excellence. So we accelerate, for a better word, 2,500 startups per year. That means we select them with our corporate partners and our VCs to solve a specific problem in physical world AI. And then if PG&E and the city of San Jose and San Jose State University, we have the president sitting here, we opened the AI Center of Excellence in San Jose, which is 12 miles from here, and we would come up with about 40 technologies per year that solve a real problem. And we think that's the way you create value. You kind of need the scale of PG&E or San Jose Airport or San Jose City, which is like 1 million people, to say that we want to be innovative. We want to control the traffic better. We want to have a better, safer street. So what we do at Plug and Play, we do all of these for the startups free of charge, and we make 95% of our profit by our investments. Last year, we did 247 new investments. This is sort of like Y Combinator, small amount of money we invest, and Dropbox, which is one of my top 10 unicorns, came from Y Combinator. But then what we do is we do product market fit by introducing the technology to like 40 banks, 40 insurance companies. And if you have a claim processing software, and you, like I remember the other day, I had the president of Tokyo Marine in my office, and the startup, which is less than 2 years old, instead of doing a presentation for him, he says, why don't you do a claim processing in Japanese? And he did a Japanese claim processing with the AI in 4 minutes. And one other example I want to use is Penguin AI. I believe his name is Ehab. No, it's not Ehab. It's Fuad. I'm sorry, Fuad. Another immigrant. By the way, I just have to put that thing in because we think a lot of Silicon Valley, Lisa, Jensen, everybody, that extra drive comes from immigrants. But nevertheless, this Penguin AI, Fuad was running one of the biggest healthcare infrastructures in the world with 4,000 engineers. About 18 months ago, he left with 18 engineers, and he built the same infrastructure in less than a year. And he said, because it's AI first, we don't have to maintain a 30-year-old code. And it would do claim processing, payer, provider, because before he worked for Anthem, he worked for Kaiser, where is also a payer, but also a hospital group. So he really knew the domain, and he was a head of engineering of 4,000 people. So he just applied AI to solve the same problem he was solving much faster, much cheaper, much more accurate. And that's where I think the value will come forward. ChatGPT and Anthropic, they are all cool, but I think if you specify specific problem and domain knowledge, I love to get from you what is QSR. I understand the retail and CPG, consumer
You noticed
packaging.
that I didn't even mention it.
Yeah. No, but the reality is I think if you solve a supply chain problem well, or planning problem with these duties now that we have, it really will make a big impact. But you have to tell me what is the other one.
Well,
I understand retail and CPG, but
QSR stands for Quick Service Restaurant, which is fast food. And I don't eat any fast food, but I will let you know that Yum Brands, which is Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, are going to soon be taking your orders, if you eat fast food, using AI, and they're rolling it out with NVIDIA's technology.
Perfect. And in fact, let's start talking about applications and talking about where we're going, because the panel, it's the future of AI. So in terms of the applications that are being enabled today, what excites you most? And then as we extrapolate into the future, the future being it could be 3 months from now, or it could be a year from now. It's hard to look around the corners too far. But what are some of those future applications that you're looking at AI enabling? So, well, it's kind of a present and future for the technology.
Well, a lot of people are starting to use the word agentic AI, and I want to kind of explain the difference, right? When you're working with ChatGPT, you're putting something in, you're putting a prompt, you're getting an answer, right? It's going and grabbing information. So the first version has been almost like a chatbot, right? You prompt it, it gives you an answer. Agentic AI is a group of agents that work together as a team. And the first thing is they perceive, they reason, and reasoning is really important. They're thinking like a human being. They're looking at different options of how to solve a problem. They plan it, and they go into action and perform a task. But the most important part of agentic AI are three things. It's autonomous. You design it, you train it with certain domain knowledge so that it's monitoring things and it knows when to go do something. It reasons, and it's basically specialized, right? And it's an orchestration of agents that work together. So agentic AI is the new thing, right? And obviously, we work with a lot of companies that are using it and leveraging it. From simple things in retail, like, how do you put your best sales rep on your e-commerce site? E-commerce is still 20% of retail shopping, but it's the fastest growing segment in terms of annual growth. But what I'm excited about, which is the hard stuff we like to work on, is agentic AI for supply chain. An agent that's looking at the weather, other things outside the company, as well as your current forecasting, and it actually changes the forecast on a much more frequent way, and it's working with other agents that are doing merchandising, pricing optimization, and so forth, in order to optimize the supply chain. And really what's now coming around the corner is physical AI. And that's AI that understands physics. It understands weights, dimension, inertia. And physical AI really consists of 4 different kinds of AI. It's computer vision for perception. It's generative AI or agentic AI. It's robotics, and it's physics-based simulation. And it's really used for optimizing throughput in factories, distribution centers, and warehouses. And if you look at how many warehouses and distribution centers are, how many people are working in supply chain, it's going to really change the speed and the agility of supply chain. And of course, it's an industry where labor is really hard to find. Who wants to unload a heavy box or pallet from a truck, right? So there are certain tasks that really make more sense to use robots with. And so physical AI combines those 4 areas of technology for a lot more agility and productivity.
Great. And Saeed, what excites you about the future?
So I think she said it incredibly well. I think you should give a tutorial about the future of AI. No, I'm not joking, because it was very simple and very to the point. To echo what she says, we were asked by Walmart to open an office in Bentonville. It took me about a year to pronounce Bentonville correctly. But Walmart, at that time, Chris Sotomayor had 130,000 employees just in his supply chain. He had $54 billion budget between warehouse, transportation, and quite frankly, what Azita said, Walmart did not suffer much when the shipments from China were coming, because like Merck's shipping line, which I ship stuff from Korea to Spain, went from $2,000 a container to $14,000 a container. And they say, Saeed, we would really rather not ship your goods, so you don't have much negotiation power. But Walmart did get their deliveries with the same old price because they are Walmart. But nevertheless, now we do about 10 projects a year in physical AI with Walmart because we feel these robots and people, we call them enhanced delivery, enhanced warehousing, because we don't want to take the human out of it totally, or you can't right now. So you have to have these robots work side by side with human, and that's where the vision and the depth and the physical world comes, because you have to be safe also. The most important thing is safety, and we feel this physical AI is just the beginning of it. And autonomous car or autonomous truck or autonomous drone, again, it's the beginning of it. Then it's going to go down to every equipment, even in the fast food retail stores, because who wants to keep frying French fries? I liked it, but I only like to do it once a month, not 4 or 5 times an hour.
There we go. So I'm going to give a slightly different twist on on the current state of physical AI, and that is it's laughably bad. And as we've seen with like self-driving cars, for instance, it's taking many, many years to get to the point where a handful of companies are excelling in that area. And of course, it's taken a lot of focus and attention, and the problems are incredibly difficult to solve. The generations of microprocessors that have had to come about over that time have had to improve. And it speaks to a couple things. One, these problems in the physical AI space are incredibly difficult. Number two, it's inevitable that we will be tackling these because innovation is occurring at all these different levels, all simultaneously, and we're taking advantage of all that. But if one were to actually use an LLM, let's say, which is focused on language, which is why it's so good at coding and programming, which is a language, and you try to apply it into an area where it requires spatial reasoning and design methodologies and fabrication, it falls way short. But it does so with enthusiasm. As we know, if you use an LLM, it's complimentary. It says, you got it. Please design me a new couch for my living room. And it says, I got it. And it says, would you like CAD drawings for this? We can 3D print this couch, no problem. Sure, give me the 3D print. It doesn't, it falls way short. And from my perspective, that's what's so exciting about this space. It's not that this is not going to happen, it's that this is going to happen. Today, if you try some of these things, they can fail magically, if you will. But on the other hand, if you are applying them in an area where they have been fine-tuned, they have been refined, for instance, in language output, in some of these multimodal, video generation, audio generation, music generation, AI shows how incredibly capable it is. So to me, physical AI is a next frontier. It's something that AI is going to tackle. Trying it today shows how far we still have to go. But again, in terms of saying how long will it take to get to that, it's probably not going to be that long because things are happening so quickly, so rapidly. So it's very interesting as we talk about what's the past, what's the present, what's the future. All of these things are getting incredibly compressed because we're just layering on top of all these, what we're doing today, which is the next generation of chips, of entrepreneurial ecosystem, is just aiding and abetting entrepreneurs and corporations alike to move faster, move more efficiently.
And there's Cosmos, which is a foundation model for the physical world that's been trained with hundreds of millions of hours of videos of warehouses, distribution centers, and factories. And so NVIDIA is collaborating with a lot of our customers and industry and academia on this foundation model.
Yeah, and that's another good example. Is like when foundation models are specifically trained to applications, and we were talking about applications earlier, how it's really important to think about those and not just the general models. But if, like for the warehouse, Cosmos probably just nails it. And a whole bunch of these LLMs just nail it. I'll go back to computer or software engineering, just nails it. We're going to be nailing more and more of these, we the ecosystem, as time goes on, and really doing an incredibly good job of replacing the fry person who doesn't necessarily want to be standing in front of the fry machine.
Great. If I could just finish by saying a little update on Plug and Play. This year, we opened 10 offices, most of them AI Center of Excellence, like the one we mentioned in San Jose, which includes San Jose State, San Jose Mayor, PG&E, DevCo West, Prologis. It's sort of like we call it the smart city and mobility. The other ones, majority of them were health Center of Excellence. We did with Indiana University and Eli Lilly. And it's what you mentioned, Warren. We cannot come up with all of the solution, or one entrepreneur cannot come up with all the solution. We just have to create the platform and the ecosystem where you fail a lot of things. That's what we do at Plug and Play well. We put the technology in front of like 140 financial institutions. It's better to learn that what you're building is not going to work sooner rather than later. And I think with AI, this is happening so fast that each industry and fast food and retail will be affected greatly. To my knowledge, it will improve, similar to Amazon that knows what I want to buy tomorrow. At least that's what my wife says. We have a lot of boxes every day in front of our house. But I think it will improve health, it will improve education, it would improve productivity. And I think Warren and Azita is a great time to be in the middle of it here in Silicon Valley. That was my closing remarks.
And actually, Azita, why don't we go to some closing thoughts from you as well?
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of people are talking about how's AI going to impact jobs. You know, I have, you know, Warren and I were both talking about, we have kids in our 20s, right? And graduating from college and all of that. And, you know, I think it's going to automate a lot of tasks. But at the same time, it's going to make people a lot more productive. And so, you know, what I encourage everyone, and as you talk to your kids, is to embrace it and learn it, because as Jensen Huang says, AI is not going to replace jobs, but someone using AI will replace jobs. So if you want to stay competitive, you really got to use it in every day in the way you work. So do everything you can to learn that.
Yeah, and I'll build upon that in stating that a number of the young adults who are graduating from college these days are finding it very difficult to find entry-level positions, because those entry-level positions are being replaced, or the assumption has been that LLMs and AI can act as an entry-level worker. But of course, we all have to think about, as a society, collectively across the world, how do we grow critical thinkers who can think strategically in these industries if if there's no entry-level positions? You know, I mean, it's kind of a trick question, because there must be entry-level positions in order to grow the future. And we need to think about that. We can't just stop and say, okay, you know, the managers who can think strategically, you know, either you're 35 and older, or, you know, you lose or something. That's not going to happen. In any event, The future of our educational system is very, very important. We need to figure out what makes sense in this next generation of AI. It's going to require a lot of thought, a lot of collaboration. It's going to require a community, as we were talking about. I see the time. The bell is ringing, the virtual bell. If we have time for a question, let's do one question as a conclusion here.
So you're talking about the researchers out of Canada. One of them is Andre Karpathy. And Andre has an interesting take on where we are and where we are going. He's more into the Iron Man suit versus the autonomous robot from the world of Tony Stark. How do you feel about that? I hear you talk about the autonomous agents and what do you think about the autonomous, capabilities of today's agents versus where there will be, according to him, probably within 10 years.
So just a quick comment on that, and I'll pass this along, is that I think it's a wonderful metaphor, is that what Andre is talking about is augmenting humanity, not replacing humanity. And that's a great focus for all of us to have here.
I agree. I mean, AI is not designed to replace people. It is designed to augment. Make it easier to do certain things that are really, really tedious and not fun to do. And even when we're talking about robots doing certain things, they're doing the type of work that nobody wants to. How many of you have been in a warehouse? I went to a PepsiCo warehouse in Dallas at 6 a.m. It was 95 degrees in there because it's so expensive to cool it down in August. And so that's the kind of work that a lot of people go, I'd rather go fry French fries than work there and depalletize, move pallets down, right? And so there's certain jobs that nobody wants that you can automate with that, but really the value of AI is going to come in terms of speed of drug discovery, like you mentioned, speed of being able to, respond to supply chain changes and augmenting people to be a lot more productive and not do the mundane or, time-consuming stuff that's not as much fun.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I have nothing to add. Again, welcome everybody. Great event to the organizer. Thank you.
Thank you, Saeed and Azita.